Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from any part of the world you are listening to me from. I sincerely welcome you to this very special edition of Bed Series Biologists Explain This. And in this special edition, we'll be discussing and talking about issues surrounding self management. Very important because even companies, organizations, they try to talk about the personnel having to manage themselves. In other words, at every level you are in life, you have to manage yourself as a parent, as a professional, as whoever you are, managing our temperament, our emotion, and circumstances we find ourselves in, how we respond to those issues. They determine a lot about our success in life, how we blend with other people, and how we are understood and interpreted and seen, and the way we see other people too. And so I want you to enjoy this particular edition so that you can understand yourself. Like I always said, it's important to understand ourselves. Life is very complex, and so it's important to understand ourselves and be able to empathize with other people. If you understand issues better, you will live a much better life, and there'll be fewer clashes and fewer strains in our various kinds of relationships. So let's listen and enjoy this particular edition together. Self-management. I still remain your tutor, your biologist, your friend, Peter Sabiodo. Let's enjoy this self-management edition together. So we begin by looking at the background to this edition. Now, many a times, and if you can reflect on your own life journey so far, you would discover that there are circumstances where we found ourselves in that we never thought it could happen to us. Now, we have seen others who were in that kind of situation. Maybe we watched in the movies or we heard on the news. Somehow, we've had some kinds of situations that we never thought we could find ourselves in. Maybe you find yourself smoking, you lost your job, your marriage crashed, or you are now having a health challenge or something. Now, in those circumstances, we begin to have to cope with the new situation our life is having to go through. And so, in order to begin to cope or adapt to these particular situations, we will need to understand issues about where we were, where we are, and where we might be if we don't manage that present phase to be ideally and appropriately. Very important for us to understand that. And so, in order to be rid of that unproductive habit, if it's a habit, for example, there are some things that we may be helpless in terms of solving, but we are discussing in this edition things that are in our capacities to handle. Remember, sometimes life does not throw at us pleasant situations. There are things that we confound us, that will amaze us, and we are dumbfounded. We just don't know how to handle them. And so we are discussing circumstances and scenarios that we are capable of handling effectively once we are able to understand how to handle them, knowing how they arose and how they are evolving so that we can track their growth and their menace before they become a problem to us. And so we are looking at what exactly is self-management. Now, according to psychology, self-management, which you can also call self-control or self-regulation, is our ability to manage our behaviors, that's one, our thoughts, our emotions in a conscious and productive way. So there are things that we have to manage so that we can live a productive life. And so our pursuit of anything in life, success, goals, and things like that, okay, you are smoking, you want to stop the smoking, you have a bad habit, you want to stop, okay. Now you have made a decision not to do some things anymore, you are addicted to a particular drug or gambling or something. Now, whatever decision we have made in our lives, we have to manage ourselves to succeed in those decisions that we are trying to make or that we have made. And so we've got to recognize that outcomes of our life's journey, okay, those outcomes are a direct result or outcome of the choices we made in the past. And so, like we always say, we are a product of our past. They always say generally that today was the tomorrow we prayed about yesterday. There's always a tomorrow and there's always a today. So you are praying now. If you're listening to me on any day, let's say you are listening to me on a Sunday and you are praying about Monday. By the time Monday comes, it's no longer tomorrow, it's now a today. So it's all about taking personal responsibility for your life. Now we are quick to trade blames, okay, pass the buck, look for who to blame. Is my dad, is my nephew, is my neighbor, is my girlfriend, or is my boyfriend or something, or it's so so and so. But we are looking at the fact that rather than looking at blame trading, rather than trying to look at passing the buck, why don't we look at how we can make the most out of some dreadful and some unpleasant situations? So self-management is taking responsibility to achieve something good out of um, let me say just unpleasant situation, meaning we can still make something good out of bad situations. And so, why is it even important to have management skills? Because there is an how to do this. So you can't just wake up and say you want to manage yourself. Of course, most of the time we are quick to judge others. We are quick to do this. Now, if a parent listening to me, for example, you can say you are a good parent managing your children and your words, for example. What of yourself? Sometimes, if you are sincere as parents, we see our child. Okay, we see ourselves in our child. We see who we used to be when we were younger. If you are sincere and very observant, you will see one of your children will look like you one way or the other. And so you begin to see that, look, this cannot go on. Let me just stop it. And so one has to understand how to, everything in life has a methodology, how to go about it. So why do we need to undertake, okay, self-management? So if you acquire the skills and you are not a better person, one, okay, you will have achieved your goals, you can get more done in a shorter time, meaning you are more effective, not just efficient. Then you can nurture well-being. So emotionally you are stable and you are balanced, you are much more confident about life, okay, you are not scared, so to say. Then you can build strong relationships, you can cope with anybody, no matter how toxic anybody is, you can relate with anyone. Of course, everybody cannot be your friend, but you can relate with, even if you have a toxic boss, you still need to earn a living anyways. You have to be in that office and stay in there. You have a colleague in your team that is not cooperative and you need results to progress in that office. You still have to form a team, be a team player, so to say, and then you can foster resilience to bounce back when you are falling. When things did not go wrong, you can still recover and succeed and progress. And so we are looking at what are the skills that we need to develop or acquire for effective self-management. And first off, we are discussing self-motivation. If you are looking for somebody in life to motivate you, I'm going to shock you. Okay, you may find none. Okay, once in a while you find some people that will be there to help you, but oftentimes you are on your own. Because anyways, if you ask yourself the question, who are you there for anyway? So if you're not there for anyone, why do you expect anyone to be there for you? Because life goes around. What goes around comes around. If you're not there for anybody, why do you expect somebody to be there for you? Okay, so but let's look at the scenario here. If you want to move forward in life, you've got to have self-belief. Okay, so what are your goals? Your goals should drive you nuts. You've got to have a motivation. There's this proverb that every day the gazelle, the antelope wakes up, okay, that's the gazelle, it knows that it's got to outrun the lion that day, otherwise that will be its last day, because the lion is going to eat it for breakfast or lunch. Okay, so it's got to put it in his consciousness that it's got to outrun the lion. And the lion, on the other hand, has got to have that consciousness that it's got to outrun the gazelle. Otherwise, it's going to have to starve for the day. And so the lion is having to be tough to eat, and this antelope is going to have to evade being caught for food. So in life, you have to be chasing something. That's the issue here now. And so the success you envisage, the picture of your future that it's in your view, you've got that's enough motivation. So you want a good family, you are trying to go after that lady or that man. That's a motivation. So there's something that you look at. There is something to benefit. Okay, so you must understand that motivation comes from understanding the end result. So they say that the end justifies the means. Of course, the means don't have to be crooked. Okay, you don't have to break the law, but you see, whatever you have to do to psych yourself up, to encourage yourself, is because you know that at the end of the day, there are benefits that you have to derive and enjoy at the end of it all. So stop looking or waiting for somebody. Encourage yourself. And secondly, you've got to be self-disciplined. This is very important. We can't overflog this. Okay. Now, this skills is important because it helps us to overcome and avoid and resist distractions. Many times they are time stealers. Okay. Time stealers want to come in. That phone call, your friend that is idle somewhere. Sometimes some friends are even selfish. They will have read and they are just tired and they just remember to call you or to beep you and say hi. And then you have your phone beside you. You are doing serious study. Why is your phone even with you? Why is it even on silence? Why is it even on vibration? You don't even have to see, because when the name of the person who sent that message or that beep, okay, if the name shows, you may be inquisitive to want to see. Why do you want to see? Because you are concentrating on what you are doing. And so the fact is that self-discipline, you look at the background, you've got the person who is sleeping anyhow. You can't just sleep anyhow because life is passing you by. You can't just eat anywhere. You may be obese, okay, you may have eating disorder. You can't play with your phone anywhere because your phone is a time stealer. That app you are using is somebody else's idea. Every time you go online, you are making money for the service provider, MTN, Airtel, Globalcom. All of them are making money. You keep buying data. You are enriching somebody else. So you've got to be disciplined with your appetite. Okay, you can't just have sex anyhow. You can't just eat anyhow. Whatever you overdo will have a problem. So you have to look at that. How often do you have to indulge in a particular habit? You've got to avoid temptations and distractions that will slow you down or hinder you from progressing. And next, we look at planning strategy. I mean, you have to be strategic. You can't just be haphazard. Okay, in whatever you are trying to do, you've got to be specific. You have to have a plan. Okay, so you have a strategic planning that is very important in trying to manage yourself. And so you've got to set goals and identify resources that you will need to achieve that aim. Now, it's just like you look at football teams or whatever, of basketball teams. All teams look for the kinds of players they need in a particular position, whether it's a striker, is the DM, the defense. Okay, you look at the defense that's leaking. You have a terrible goalkeeper. Whatever the problems are, you identify who fits in to ensure that that particular problem is solved in the long run. And so that is the idea of planning. You don't just say because you've got the money, you go ahead and buy a car that you cannot maintain. Now, in trying to show off, some of us buy cars that we don't need because a car is a liability. If you bought it in the morning and you felt like selling that same day, the value has dropped. It's a liability, and you've got to prepare for the mechanic, the rewire. You've got to fuel and maintenance costs will come. You will drive and enjoy. I mean, just look at this guy. There's a guy now that's in the news, Portable. Portable was alleged to have gone ahead to buy a G-Wagon Mercedes. Okay, he made a down payment of about 17 million thereabout, and he's not able to make the balance payment. Now, what told him that he's going to be a star forever, that he will make money? How many albums has he sold? I mean, just because of shows, if not for the terrible exchange rate of dollar and pounds in Nigeria, if you didn't go for shows, would he have been able to have the money he's been able to accrue? Sincerely, I mean, why would somebody think of the first money you made, the breakthrough is to go and be buying a car? I mean, just look at, there are many cars you can buy moderate that will not cost that amount. A car of 2-3 million, I mean, just imagine 30 million car and you don't have a steady income. It's not as if you'll be a star forever. And so you must be strategic. Okay, you can't just do things anyhow. What are the resources you will need to achieve your goals? Break them into steps. Don't be too lofty, too idealistic. Whatever your plans are, you have to be strategic and realistic. Okay, so you can break it down in chunks. Okay, your plan is, I will achieve this today, I will achieve this now, and then build on my achievement and move on. Nobody builds in a day. They say usually that Rome was not built in one day. Not only Rome, everything that will last will take time to be built. Anything that will last. Okay, whether it's a home or family or business, nothing is ever built in a hurry. If it's built on a quicksand, it will collapse very soon. And so you've got to understand the resources. The more it's going to last, the stronger the materials you will need to use to build. And so break your task into steps that are realistic, that you can manage, because you have to manage every phase and every stage. And then after you have achieved something, you consolidate and then build on the success that you have achieved right now. And then you have to review regularly, because strategy means that whatever you did that didn't work, you want to change your strategy. So you see football teams playing 4-3-3, for example, and they change again, they are playing something else, because maybe now the pressure is too much on the defense. You are now leading, you don't want to concede more goal. You've got to change your strategy. And so it's important to do review daily, weekly, quarterly. You've got to review. You can't just be using the same strategy. If it's working, you can still improve, because you've got competitors who are understudying you. There are people looking at your success story and they want to outcompete you. So you can't keep using the same strategy. If it worked for a while, be sure that it's not going to work forever. That's why nobody's at the top forever. Nobody succeeds forever. If it's going to last, you have to evolve. There are companies today that are folded up because they couldn't adapt to the new situation. And so you've got the world becoming driven by technology. AI is messing job availability, messing them up. There are fewer job opportunities now for people to undertake. So strategy means that, how do I go about what I've set out to accomplish? And next, self-awareness. Who am I? What am I? Who and what you are, they are different things entirely. So I want you to go and look at that and study very well. Okay, you may have a name. Your name is Peters, for example. Your name is Godwin. Your name is Bridget. So your identity and personality, they are different things. If you failed, for example, that is not you. Okay, it was just an event. So we always say that failure is not fatal and the success is not final, because there will still be another challenge next phase of our lives. And so you've got to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. Don't bite more than you can chew. Don't arrogate anything to yourself. Don't look like a superstar. Nobody is all in all. Everybody, if you have read the story of Achilles' heels, I've said it before when I was talking about being happy in my previous video. And please, those of us who are listening to me for the first time, you can subscribe to our YouTube channels so I can get updates. And at the end of this video, you will see our YouTube channel that you can log into and see all kinds of videos that can help you to live a better life and succeed more in life. And so you need to have feedbacks. For example, of course, everybody cannot love you. It's a deception. There will be somebody out there who will hate you, and sometimes in hatred, in toxic comments, you learn from your mistakes. So of course there will be haters for sure. There will be those who just hate you for no reasons. There will be those who will envy you, but there are those who are also sincere in their assessment of you. And so oftentimes, don't listen to those who praise you. What of those who condemn you? For example, when a student fails my subject, for example, I want to take part of that responsibility. Whether the child was playful or unserious or not, I ask myself, maybe there were things I could have done much better to have helped that student. I don't want to blame it on that child alone, because I thought that child, I put in my effort, but it didn't turn out well. So you got to ponder and meditate on where you used to be, how far you have come, how did you get to where you are, and take stock, so to say. Do a self-reflection, and I will say this, be very sincere with yourself. Don't look for who to blame. Blame yourself, pick up the pieces, dust yourself up, and move on. Roll your sleeves and move on, because there's something to achieve ahead of you. And then you've got to know your skills. What are you competent at? What are you skilled at? What are you good at? Okay, so build on your strength and learn to overcome your weaknesses. Don't envy anybody. What you can't do, you cannot do. Where you are good at, there are people who are even envying you. That's one sad truth about life. As we are envying other people, there are people who are admiring us quietly. They've not told us, we've not had them say it to us. There are people who wished they could be like you, and yet here you are, trying to look down on yourself, trying to look at how you can be who you can never be. Of course, sometimes you have idols, you have people that you can emulate, and somehow you can be like them. But the best you can be is a photocopy of an original. You can never imitate somebody and be exactly like that person, because our personalities are genetic to an extent, not just environmental. It's not everything you can learn by training. There are things that are just natural endowment, natural capability that we are born with. So it's not everything that you can copy, no matter how hard you try. So learn to be realistic. Let's to be true to who you are. Be the authentic you. Be the authentic you. Don't be a photocopy of anyone. The harder you tried, the more you aren't going to succeed to be that person. There are people who have done plastic surgery in the bid to look like somebody else. They end up devastated. They end up looking ridiculous. And of course, they are going to have to regret because that surgery is not going to last. And so they get disfigured eventually. And then here we come to goal setting. Very important and very, very crucial. Now, goal setting is when you try to aim at achieving something. And goals are always supposed to be SMART. SMART is an acronym of specificity. Okay, your goal must be specific. Define it. What do I want to achieve? Measure it. How do you assess your progress? Because sometimes your progress may be slow and it may seem that you are not making any progress at all. So you must have yardsticks for assessing your progress. Now, if the hyena or the cheetah, they were running, and then running together with earthworm, for example, or running with, so you can imagine a puma or a cheetah running with, it's ridiculous now, running together with an earthworm or a snail. Of course, the snail can never outrun the cheetah, but if there was time, the snail will still get there. It may be slower, but he or she will get there eventually. So try to measure your progress as long as you are not stationary, you aren't stagnant. They say in life, if you were sitting, start to crawl. And if you were crawling, stand up, get off your butt and begin to stand. And as you stand, begin to learn to walk. And so if you have been walking, try to start to run. And if you have been running, try to spread out your wings, square your shoulder, and try to see if you can rise above challenges and begin to fly. And don't just fly, learn to soar, because soar is effortless flight. And of course, be realistic. Those set goals that your ability will never let you accomplish. If you're trying to copy anybody, like I said earlier on, the best you can be is the photocopy of an original. Be realistic. Know what you are capable of achieving. How can you achieve that? So your goals have to be time bound. What can you do in 1 hour, in 1 day, in 1 weekend, within a month? If you have a goal to pass an examination, how often do you want to study daily, okay, to be able to cover the syllabus, practice enough past questions, and be fully ready to excel in that examination? So please, yes, your goals have to be SMART, specific, okay? They've got to be measurable. They've got to be, okay, action-based. You've got to be active. No matter how tired you are, no matter how discouraged you are, get up, just move on. Sometimes you are down, but you just keep moving on because until it's over, it ain't over. And then we come to stress management. Life is tough, and the way things are going, it's unlikely life will ever get better. So we are the ones that will create a niche for ourselves to make our lives much more enjoyable. And so there are two ways of coping with stress. One is the cognitive coping strategies. Cognition has to do with the way you see things, your perception, the way you understand issues, okay? So in cognitive coping strategies, you have to see things from a much more positive perspective. To deal with stress, stop dwelling on the negatives. Negatives, if you look at the negative, of course, we don't have those kind of things anymore. In the old days, in the 80s and 70s, we used to have this camera, even up to 90s. We had this camera that you've got the film that you put in the camera, and then when you take the photographs, everything comes as negative. And those negatives that you take to the laboratory, and then when you print them, they come out as the pictures. So take the negatives of life and do something with the negatives, and the beautiful picture comes out. Negatives come in black and white, but when they're printed, they appear colorful. So from the negatives, let the positive, the beauty come out. And so don't dwell on the negatives. And they talk about in yoga, try to count the 10. Okay, you close your eyes when you're troubled. Take your eyes off the problem. The more you dwell on it, the bigger it gets. Don't fuel the problem. Don't give fuel. Don't try to make it bigger. Close your eyes and try to breathe in. Take deep breaths. So that's what they say, counting to 10. You know what you are doing by counting? You are giving yourself time to cool down. You are giving yourself time to calm down. When you are agitated, when you are troubled, by counting, you are taking the pressure off you and you are learning to relax. So yes, when you are down and troubled, take deep breath, count to 10. By doing this, you are easing the pressure. And of course, look at the benefit of your efforts. What you're trying to do is look at the goal, okay? Now, I mean, just imagine God had to tell Abraham to come up on the mountain. Abraham was doubting what God promised him, and God said, come, guy, let me show you. Look to the north and south, east and west, as far as your eyes can see. So sometimes you see, just imagine yourself having that good result, that A star, okay? See yourself having that good job. See yourself marrying that person. See yourself, just imagine, let the end result drive you. Okay, so look at the benefit of your stress, of your labor, of your effort. Visualize it, see it. The constancy of your seeing it is what drives you not to be what? Not to relent. And of course, we can't overflog this. We come to behavioral ways of coping with what? With stress. So we come to behavioral strategies of coping with stress. And the one I want to emphasize the most is learn to smile. Okay? Life is tough. Look for reasons to smile. Smile alone. So it's in the background of this particular scene, you've got people smiling. Okay? Sometimes we pretend. You can just look for some reason. No matter how bad life is, there's a ray of hope. That ray, look at the positive. What have you experienced in the past that it's a thing to bring to the fore? Try to relive that scene, that event, and smile. Is that loved one, okay? That friend, that movie, that song. Just look for something to make you to smile. Because if you have listened to my video and if you have not watched the video or how to be happy, please get it. I talked about the 4 hormones people call the feel-good hormones, and the major one is dopamine. And so the more you try to be happy, dopamine gives you reward. So dopamine is called the happiness hormone, okay? And then of course to exercise, I was talking about breathing before, okay? Like you to count 10 and then try to be adaptable. Learn to change. Don't be rigid. Don't always insist on your stand. Don't always insist that this is the way you gotta do it. If things are changing, that's why we talk about extinction in biology. The dinosaurs, for example, the mammoths, they couldn't change with the evolution. Circumstances, the weather, the environment changed, and they couldn't just cope. There was time that we had the DVD players, front loaders, cassette, and things like that. There are many things that we used to enjoy in those days that have become relics. They've gone with the past. Things have changed. So it's companies that have adapted that are still surviving. If you read the story of Samsung, Samsung never started as an electronic making company. Samsung has gone through all kinds of transitions. I want you to Google Samsung story and see how Samsung evolved to what it is. And it's important also that in trying to look at behavioral strategy of managing stress, please manage your time. Now we are going to turn our attention to time next because there are time stealers. Sometimes we fail to plan and we waste our time on things that don't amount to anything. They are not important, but they slow us down and they tie us down. So please, we'll be looking at time management as we proceed. Now this is a speaker that said you will never find time for anything. You are the one to make time for it. So if you have been complaining that there ain't no time, I can't do my assignment, I close late, there's much to do. If you really are sincere with yourself, try to look at every 5 minutes, 10 minutes that you were chatting, browsing, doing nothing productive. If you could just get a note and begin to write down how many minutes you spend chatting, browsing, in between classes, checking your messages, you'll be amazed that you might have spent 3 hours on the net achieving nothing. You had your break time, you are still chatting, you are still browsing, checking your mails. Break time that you are meant to be resting and trying to revise what you were taught. So there are ways that we don't manage time and we complain a lot. And of course, we come to the next issue here, which is very important to you and I. Now we come to what we refer to as Eisenhower's matrix. Okay, you can Google it and read more. But it was telling us that how to manage our lives, our time. So look at the matrix, it's a 2 by 2 matrix. You have issues that are important and not urgent. You have the list there. You've got those that are important but not urgent. For example, when you are ready for an examination, it doesn't look like it's important. It's not urgent. After all, the exam is 3-4 months away, even a year. Every day you are reading, it doesn't look like anything because the exam is not near. But whatever you are doing is cumulative. And so preparation is important but doesn't look urgent. But one day what you are preparing for will eventually come. And so some things are not important. So I want you to dwell on the boxes at the bottom, 3 and 4. Things that they are not important, they are not urgent, yet we spend so much time on them. So at your leisure, please just sit down and look at this particular matrix and look at the boxes. Look at where you have been wasting time. And then time wasting is what has led you to where you are now. And so you can't continue the way you had continued either to. You've got to change something if you're going to make the most of your life. Again, this is another version of the Eisenhower's matrix, another version of it. Just look at the two types of the matrix and just learn from them. So deadlines, if you've got something that has deadlines, there's no time. So just look at it. What must you do now that you cannot defer? You can't, it's not everything you can procrastinate. You can't postpone some things. Some things can be scheduled. Okay, I will do them later. Okay, some things delegate. Let somebody do it on your behalf. Okay, let it wait. And some things don't even bother about them. That's the summary of this particular matrix. So please spend time. Thank God you can watch this video over and over again and then begin to reshuffle your schedule, and you begin to see that you gain more time and you achieve more in the short run and in the long run. And then this particular issue of being effective and efficient, very important. If you are going to manage yourself properly, you've got to find a balance. So look at that guy in this particular scene, trying to look at balance. Many times we are efficient, we are not effective. Efficiency is about getting it done. You just want to do it. So I want to study this chapter today. I want to cover these topics today. What of understanding, what of comprehension, what of recollection. But when you are effective, you are goal oriented. So look at that particular clock on the left side. Okay, it's been coming on all the slides so far, all the scenes you have had to go through. You are talking about if there was a scale to measure your efficiency, how efficient are you? Even if you are 100% efficient, in physics we are told that no machine in life is 100% efficient, but there will be heat that will be given off that you cannot recover. Heat energy is not recoverable. It's dissipated away. It's a loss. So if you are efficient, no matter how good you are, you cannot be fully efficient. So when your little energy achieves the expected result, then you are effective. So a sharp knife is effective. You require minimum effort to accomplish so much. Okay, so sharp knife, no matter how tough the yam is, no matter how hard it is, a good knife, a good sword will penetrate anything. So begin to walk towards this in your life's journey. Ask yourself this question: am I just efficient? I'm all about let's just do it. Let's just do it. Let's just finish. Let's finish. At the end of the day, assess what you read. What percentage of what you read can you remember the following day? If a test was to be sat for, what percentage of what you read can you still recall? So begin to weigh that and look at effectiveness and your efficiency. It's better to be effective and efficient at the same time. Find a balance between the two. So this particular scene is just trying to buttress the issue of efficiency and effectiveness, how to find a balance between the two. You just have to find a balance because not one is much important than the other one. We need both of them, but being efficient alone will not take you far. And then we come to a very important concept. Remember, this is BET series where we try to give explanations based on biological concepts on what we see. Now, biology is the study of living things, life in its entirety. And so there are reasons about what we see. Of course, there are things that science doesn't understand, but there are things that researchers have been able to discover. Of course, it's nature that reveals. So based on revelation, we want to discuss the biology behind self-management. So if you have not seen our previous video on everything that we have been doing so far, please go and get the video on the brain. Okay, we talked about, so the last video we did was talking about so many things about study and learning and things like that. We talked about learning disorders and learning disabilities, learning difficulties, and we chronicled celebrities. Okay, Harry Potter, Radcliffe had dyslexia. Then you have Orlando Bloom, okay, the actor in Lord of the Rings. Okay, there's so many people, the CNN guy, okay, Cooper, and then so many people, Justin Timberlake, okay, John Wick, also Keanu Reeves, they all have disorders. So we are looking at the fact that there are things that we can understand. So when you understand something, it demystifies it. Knowledge brings power, it brings consciousness that you know what to do. So there's this part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, the PFC, which is the part of the brain that controls our activities. And so it helps us to, there's something we are going to be discussing briefly. It's called the executive function. Just like you have a CEO of an organization, the chief executive officer, whose responsibility is to coordinate and give direction. Our brain also has this PFC region, the prefrontal cortex, that is vested with the responsibility of helping us to plan, to execute, and to manage our emotions. And so this function involves the higher order of learning, processing, things that require deep thoughts and serious planning. And so this region is important because, very funny, it takes time to mature. And I mean, if you look at the brain of children and the brain of adults, there's a difference. So look at that diagram to your right. You will see the different perspectives to what is referred to as executive functioning of the brain. So the brain has a role to play in our self-management. And so we are still discussing the issue of the biology behind self-management. Now, the issue is this. There are four aspects, okay, of the biology. That is the functioning of the PFC. There's the what in what it does. There's a when in what it does. There's a why, and there's an how. So the question is, what has to be done? So you got this part of the functioning called the working memory. When is the timing for something to be done? You've got to know the appropriate time. Doing the right thing at the wrong time will still not achieve the desired purpose. You're working so hard, but you are doing it at the wrong time. The wrong timing will not get you the results. And so why are you having to do this, for example? Is that the best way to do it? Because the right thing done the wrong way will not bring the desired results. And then how? What is the method to be used? So this part of the brain called the PFC is the part that is responsible for helping us to do this. So the what and the when and the why and the how. Everything we do day in our lives, they have to do with all these four parameters of our brain activities. And then we come to this issue of executive function of the prefrontal cortex of the brain. There are three aspects of the skills that we have to learn from this part of the brain. The first is the working memory. The next is the cognitive. We've talked about that earlier on, flexibility. And then there is this inhibition control. We're going to pick them one by one, okay, briefly, and just try to shed more light on them. So you want to make plans. You are clumsy. You get angry easily and things like that. You get too carried away. You want to learn the biology about yourself in the next couple of minutes. Now let's begin to look at the issue of the executive function from the point of view of the working memory. This part of the function helps us to do what? To sense, to process information, okay? Now it enables you to integrate, means to bring together. So whatever you have learned in the past, nothing is new. Every new information has to be correlated with the past. If you are learning something new, it's like having to learn cell before, and you are now learning neuron. A neuron is a cell that's modified to transmit electrical stimuli. Okay, and then you are looking at a gland. A gland too is a cell. So every new knowledge, okay, you have learned about force before. Now you're learning about impulse in physics. You're learning about work, energy, and power. They are still based on forces. So every new information must be correlated to the past. So the past helps you to understand. That's why when you began your education, you were taught A for apple, B for boy. Okay, you learned all the letters of the alphabet. They began to learn 2-letter words, 3-letter words, and things like that. And then you began to write sentences, and then now you're writing essays. In your mathematics when you were younger, you were taught addition, subtraction, the board math, so to say. You could never have known that the board math become quadratic and all the complex math you see today. And so there's a part of the working memory whose responsibility it is to coordinate this. Now, the function of this working memory begins, okay, very early in life. Psychologists say that but from age 2 to 3, it begins to work. And by the time you get older, the working memory declines in efficiency and effectiveness. And still on the executive function, now let's look at the cognitive flexibility. Okay, now if you're flexible, it means you are adaptable. Now you can multitask. Some people say that when they are reading or studying, they can listen to music. It's not everybody that can do that, because the music will distract some people. So some people can multitask. I can assure you that ordinary playing of the drum set to coordinate your arms and your foot can be a problem. Ordinary keyboard, to use your two hands or the fingers to play the keys can be a problem. So even the functioning, so the flexibility, the adaptability, not everybody, because you need to coordinate different parts of the body. And this is what experts have told us. Like I said earlier on, at age about 3, okay, there's a development that you have attained. So you begin to experience or develop this cognitive flexibility. So children can learn anything. If you read the story of Serena Williams and her sister Venus, they began to learn tennis very early in life. Most Olympic champions began training for that sport when they were young. So children can learn anything. Their brain is still adaptable. As you grow older, it becomes very, very difficult. You can still learn, but you will need to apply more effort to learn those things as you grow older. So if a child begins to learn some things early in life, as early as age 3 or thereabouts, now the child will have attained competency by the age 12. And so the executive function of the brain improves until around 23. From age 30, decline begins to set in. Now, still on the executive functioning, we come to the inhibitory. So we have talked about 2 already. We talked about the issue of cognitive flexibility and the working memory. There's a third skill that we need to acquire and to master. Now, inhibition means restraint. How do you manage your thoughts, your emotions? You can't impose your thoughts on everybody all of the time. You can't be right, sir or ma. Yes, you can't. You don't know it all. Even a professor doesn't know everything. A professor is somebody who knows so much about a little and does not know everything about everything. Okay, so sorry for that. Nobody knows it all. You are just a master of the area you focused on. Nobody knows the aspect of medicine. Nobody knows everything about cars. Even ICT, the front desk, the back desk, and whatever they call it. Everybody, of course, there are people who know much about so many things, but still, there's a particular aspect where everybody is deficient at. Nobody knows everything. So, in other words, if you are discussing with your friends in an office and suddenly, today that I'm discussing, this video is being recorded on a day where the EPL will play in the final match. And so it's going down to the wire between Arsenal, okay, and Manchester City. And then there are fans who are going to be, all kinds of things will happen. Emotions, tempers will rise. So if you don't watch at home, for example, if you have to watch football, these final matches at the viewing center, some friends become enemies. They will throw nasty tantrums and they will be beat up with each other. They are not even known by their clubs. Those footballers don't even know them from Adam. Yet they will carry this on their head, and because there's these emotions that go into so many things. But how do you manage in the face of provocation, in the face of temptation? How do you still manage? That is down to your inhibitory control. So this part of the brain, this prefrontal cortex, extended part. So inhibitory control is all about managing distractions, okay? So, and you can maintain your concentration. When you are studying, all kinds of people are around you disturbing, and you can still maintain your focus. You are driving. You are going to see when you're driving, you are going to see many beautiful ladies. If you take your eyes off the road, you might just end up having to hit somebody else. So there are many beautiful ladies all over the place, and nudity is everywhere now. Serious nudity, very embarrassing and annoying. So if you want to look at every lady you see when you're driving, you're in big trouble, brother. So try to maintain a focus when you're doing things because there are distractions all over the places. And so good inhibitory control is saying that you have good executive function of your cortex. And so please understand this. So we talk about 3 skills now, things that are controlled. So the scope of operation of your executive function involves, let's start from the rear now, in the battery control, you've got to be flexible and adaptable, and then your working memory should be very good and sharp and acute. And then we come to how to improve our executive function. Now we've talked about how good it is, working memory, adaptability, inhibition. Now you've got to exercise. Don't be inactive. When you say again, please get our video on how to be happy. You will learn about how exercise helps to improve, okay, our happiness and joyfulness. You're excited. Sleep. You can't rob yourself of sleep and expect to do well. You'll be nasty the following day. Quiet time. Sometimes just be on your own. You can't be all the time all over the place. Sometimes sit down, withdraw from the crowd. Diet is very important. Cut down sugar, cut down fat. They feed cancer, they feed disorders. Try to take a reflection, reflect on the past. Don't dwell on the past, but learn from the past. And of course, do something else that's exciting. Do active sports. Martial arts, don't break your bone anyway, don't break your leg, but do something. Learn a language, learn a skill, play an instrument. Try to just do something. Just go out with friends. Stay active. The more active you are, the more your brain, that cognition is improved upon. I mean, if you know those who retire, this is for all of us. If you have an uncle or a parent who is retired or retiring, please don't keep them at home. Try and encourage them. That's why you see some people as they grow older, they play golf, they play tennis and things like that. They don't need to stress themselves because the limbs, the bones are weaker now, the joints are weaker. They may end up with serious injuries. At least they can have sleep disc and things like that, but they can walk around. That's why in neighborhoods where you have old people together, they help themselves. I see some of them in the morning when I go into work and come back from work. In the neighborhood, they wear their slacks and their trainers and they walk, they are gisting and they're talking about something else. They are laughing together because they are the same age range. They are both retirees and they enjoy their company. So their hobbies, play drafts, play chess, do something. Just do something. Just don't stay inactive. Don't just sit your butt there. Get your butt off that chair. Get your back off that bed. Just damn well do something that keeps you active. And then, what are the signs of dysfunction in your executive functioning of the brain? What are the signs? Now, you forget facts easily, appointment dates, okay? You lack organization. You can't concentrate, okay? You don't even know how you got to where you are. I mean, you stood up to go and do something and suddenly you've lost concentration. Your mood just changes for no reason. You can't explain it. And then you're not doing well. You used to do well, a high flyer, an achiever, and suddenly there's a decline in your performance. Watch it. You may be having a decline in your executive function. It may be a dysfunction or early warning sign. And then, still on this disorder, okay, these disorders describe faults or weaknesses in your cognitive processes. It's not a disease. It's not going to kill you. It only ensures that you'll be able to do some things. So you begin to see that things that you were good at before, you are not able to do them well anymore. You begin to look for how to seek help. Get a doctor, read books. The world is smaller now. Look for how to get information about what to do. Once you notice the signs, look for help before it gets worsened. And then we come to the issue of how is it diagnosed, okay? There is this thing called brief. That's the behavior rating inventory of executive function brief. That's the diagnosis that is done to know if any individual, adult, child, whatever, if you want to know that you have a dysfunction in your executive function, you can undertake the brief test together with other tests. The result test experts whether it's other disorders or this one. So that is how the diagnosis is done. And then we're rounding off very soon. We come to what is known as the marshmallow test. Marshmallow is like a snack, a confectionery made from gelatin, corn syrup, and sugar. Very sweet and attractive to children. So it's a scientist, a psychologist, okay, Walter Mitchell, did a test where he chose 500 children from ages 4 to 30. So it's not just children, adults, young adults too. And then he placed this marshmallow before them, and he gave them an instruction that in 15 minutes time he was going to get back. That if they didn't eat the marshmallow in their bowl or plate, he would give them an extra. He left them for 15 minutes. You'll be very surprised as a result of this test. Everywhere the world over the test has been conducted, it has yielded the same pattern of results. Now let's look at the results. Not all children show the same level of patience. Some were just too impatient. Imagine 15 minutes was too long for some children. 15 minutes, they just couldn't sit still. Some of them wanted to touch. Of course, the man was somewhere looking at them. Anyway, studying them, the body, absolutely. So use the body language and things like that. And then the children who managed to control themselves, who just stood still, not carried away, no, just indifferent. And now, those who exhibited those traits at age 4, remember, the man followed them until they were in their 30s. Now, later in life, they were the ones who could manage stress. They were the ones who had higher self-esteem, who had self-control, who expressed better. So what they showed at age 4 began to work for them in life. Those who were impatient, who went for the marshmallow, they are the ones who had poor concentration, who lost their job, who couldn't do well later in life. So a lot of problems can be diagnosed early in life. If your child wants to tie his or her shoelace on his or her own, please leave him alone. He doesn't want you to turn his foot. When a child is beginning to exhibit individuality at age 3, that is the sign of the development of executive function. Parents, guardians, tutors, siblings, please understand me. This is very important. If this is the only thing you got from this video, that at age 4, when a child begins to exhibit the competency, he or she wants to do things on his or her own, please let him be, let her be, because that is how the brain is developed. Children who were given assignment also chose to do, not the house help doing it, not the mom. If your child is involved in housekeeping, give him or her responsibility. They turn well in life, unlike those, because it's important to understand that the brain grows with task, just like developing muscles. Those who build muscles are built when they are made to work against a load. The more they load, the bigger the muscles that you will develop eventually. So please understand this information. Executive function is developed from about age 4. And if the child is engaged productively, given some stuff to do, the child turns out better in life eventually. So we come to the end of this interesting edition. And like I always say, I want to hear from you, please. WhatsApp me, email me, Instagram, YouTube. Please, if you are enjoying, don't just enjoy, please share these videos. There are many people who are dying slowly. Many people are looking for information. People want to know reasons. Why? Why is my child this way? Why is my child not this way? Why am I this way? So please, don't hide this video. Please share it and don't get tired. You yourself watch this video over and over. Of course, the information in all our videos, they are not exhaustive. You can still Google and learn more. We try to make our videos not too long. We try. But because of the passion, you can see the passion in my explanations. Sometimes I will have said I will make it 30 minutes or less. But because of my experiences and my passion, I try to ensure that everybody who lays his hand on the video can understand without looking for any further explanation. So please, pardon me if this video is too long, but I'm sure there are movies you have watched, even series that are longer than this. So please bear the little data you will have to use. Please manage the data, please, for the good of yourself, for your growth, and of course, for your betterment. Because having learned this, you can understand yourself better and people around you. So please, I love to hear from you. It's very important to me, and let's begin to discuss. Let's have discussion fora. If you're an expert, a psychologist, if you came across this video, please respond. Let me hear your comments. You have had experiences as a tutor parent. You've had a child, somebody that passed through you, or you yourself. Please, I want to hear from you. So please, let's hear from one another. Let us learn and make life a better place, and let those around us be better. Because of you, somebody's life can change for the better. So once again, thank you so very much for your patience to have listened to the end. God bless you. I wish you a good success in your life's journey. Thank you very much. See you in our next edition. Remember, life can be better.